I like the, if you have a property that's near an elementary school, right? What if you decided to have an open house between 8 and 10 on a Wednesday morning when everybody and their sister is driving? I don't know if it's like this where you live, but where I live, everyone drives their kids to school and the school buses drive around empty each morning. I'm not sure why we pay for the school buses, but if everyone's driving their kid to school and doing the drop-off thing, right, do you have an opportunity then to maybe capture some of that traffic at a morning time open house, right? Now that assumes that children will be going back to school and assumes a lot of things. And yet, I'm going to continue to have these discussions knowing that at some point our world will snap back into some sense of what it used to be, right? And have normal patterns that people will follow. Why are we talking about open houses again? Oh yeah, so the idea is with open houses, oftentimes your activity itself will be on the weekend, and yet there are other things that you need to be doing during the week from a follow-up and a planning perspective. And so some of those bricks in your lead generation strategy might be on a Thursday, like so Monday and Tuesday, your open house activity is to follow up with people who you had met that weekend or the week previous. And on a Thursday, your a task might be, here, well, I'm having an open house at 123 Main Street. I'm going to do a 10-10-20-20 around that particular open house. What's a 10-10-20-20? 10-4, good buddy. It's just another system for a call around to invite people to an open house. You're going to talk to the 10 people to the left and the 10 people to the right, neighbors, 20 across the street and 20 behind, right? So you're covering about 50 houses. I mean, mathematically it's 60, I get it, but you may not have all those numbers available. So it's a matter of getting a hold of them. Sometimes the 10-10-20-20 is a walking tour of a neighborhood, or maybe you're walking through and hanging door hangers to invite to an open house in a condo complex, right? Lots of different opportunities that you have to have one of those bricks during the week be preparation for and traffic driving to an open house for the coming weekend. Maybe some of you are going to take that idea of building your agent-to-agent referral network that we talked about. And so for you now, it's okay. I'm doing. It was 30 major markets, right? So I'm doing 5 a day for the next. On Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm going to do 5 each day. That's 10 a week. It'll take me 3 weeks to get through the 30 major markets. But you see how there's structure then around what it is you're doing? You're not arriving to work and wondering what am I going to do today? You're building it beforehand. Now, I encourage you to have a general lead generation strategy that you then manipulate and or adjust depending on what you have to do each Sunday night. So you're going to look the week ahead on Sunday night. You're going to look the week ahead to say, okay, so does my normal schedule work this week? What might get in the way? How do I have to make adjustments? Maybe you had massively prosperous open houses on the weekend, and this week you're going to do a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday follow-up because there's too many people to follow up in just 2 of those days or whatever, right? Maybe you're feathering in. Maybe you've decided to start with current expireds, and then after a month or so of getting those under your belt, you're going to start calling some old expireds as part of your lead generation strategy. And now you have to find a spot for them. What's the system around old expireds? Do you do that every day of the week, or is it only 2 or 3 times a week? What about internet lead generation? Are you working leads off of the internet? Are you running Facebook ads through the command platform, right, to attract business? Certainly, as those leads come in, you need to contact those as quickly as possible, but then you also need to set up a system a couple of days a week to follow up, right? Do you remember our conversation? Lead generation is a must, but the money is made where? In the follow-up, right? In the follow-up. See, I read all of your minds. I knew you were all thinking it. The money's made in the follow-up. So if you don't build that follow-up time into that lead generation strategy, do you forget to do it? Do you only do it every couple of weeks? How much opportunity are you missing because you don't have it systematized and scheduled in your calendar, right? Now, we didn't spend a lot of calendar time in our first week together, and that was on purpose to get us further faster. And yet, schedule management is something we will likely discuss that on Monday before we start sellers. But let me throw this at you. I had a one-on-one session earlier today, and who I was talking to said, you know, one of the things that I struggle with is my day is just, it's whoever calls. I'm like a Pop-Tart. Like the second somebody calls me, boing, out of the toaster I am, and off I am running to something else. Right? If it's my family who needs me, I'm off running in that direction. If it's a client who needs me, I'm off running in that direction. If it's somebody from the office needs a piece of paper, I run in that direction. Right? If I'm not doing any of that, I realize I didn't, you know, shop this week, so now I'm running to do personal errands during my work day. It's all over the place. And she said, you know, and she doesn't not make money. Well, here was my question. If you can make money while you're running all over the place like a chicken without a head, imagine if you laid some structure underneath all of that. Imagine what the results would be, what the return on your time would be if you actually created some structure. And so I do encourage you, as I encouraged her, to figure out what that structure looks like. For those of you who are brand new to the industry, frankly, you don't have anything else to do except find business. Like if you don't have any current business, well, what else is there to do all day long? Yes, you can be learning scripts and practicing. I encourage that, but that's an hour, right? If you're working an 8-hour day, you got 7 hours of trying to find business, right? For those of you who do have current clients, remember what Gary told us that very first day. Handling current business never takes precedent over finding future business. Right? Experienced agents on the call, that is a struggle for a lot of you. And I understand the struggle. I get it. I get it because it doesn't seem like the right path. It seems counterintuitive. Structure will help you tame that. I know there's a couple of questions in the chat. I'm going to get to them in a second. Any questions on the scheduling or the lead generation strategy that we're asking you to build? Anne. Anybody else? And if you had something, I couldn't hear it, so put it in the chat box or unmute again.
No, I was going to say something, but then I just have a question because I understand scheduling, I understand discipline, I understand staying focused, but in this environment, it's so frenetic. And so when you do have people that you're trying to help with buying opportunities and renting opportunities, and they want to see so many things, it just blows up your day. So while I understand it's great to be disciplined and I know how to be disciplined and focused, there's only so much you can do when you're trying to meet the demands of the people who are looking for the homes, right? I mean, you don't want to, you know, so it's just such a fine balancing act.
So here's what I have learned over time, is that it's only a balancing act if you choose to make it a balancing act, right? And what I mean by that is you have to make a decision at some point whose schedule you're going to run on. Are you running on the client's schedule or are you running on your schedule? right? And I understand that buyers are demanding. I understand that, especially nowadays, you have to get people into a house quickly, right? And yet, at the same time, you also have a business structure. You have a business to run. And so I would be really cautious around making scheduling decisions based entirely on somebody else's schedule, right? There is a way for you to create balance. You just don't have an opportunity. If you decide that you're going to spend from 8 in the morning to 11 in the morning finding new business and doing follow-up and doing all those business building client acquisition type exercises, well, then you're just not available until 11 o'clock. And what I want to empower each of you with is the script that says, hey, Maria, I can absolutely meet you at 11:15. I actually am booked through 11 o'clock today, but I can meet you at that house at 11:15. Does 11:15 work for you? And too many of us don't ask that question or assume the question is no, that their only opportunity is 9:30, right? Be careful that if someone calls you and says, I need to go and see a house at 9:30 tomorrow morning, and you haven't asked because you already have an appointment with yourself at 9:30, if you haven't asked the question about moving it to 11 o'clock or whatever that time is that makes better sense for you, you haven't asked enough questions to get enough information to know whether or not that 9:30 is really the only time they have available. Now, don't leave this call and say, well, Rick said we shouldn't service our clients at a high level. That is not what I said, right? That's not what I said. Instead, I want you to take, and for those of you who are new or newer, it's a lesson that it took me years to learn. Because I ran my business the other way. I was the chicken without the head. I was the running around Pop-Tart person. I get it. And sometimes it's a version of understanding that this is not the first and last opportunity that you'll have to meet with this particular buyer client, right? Sometimes a scarcity versus abundance mentality creeps in and says, I better do exactly what they've asked, regardless of what I have on the table, or else I might miss out on an opportunity. Now, if you truly believe that the client may miss out on an opportunity if you don't adjust and arrange, well, I'm not saying don't adjust and arrange in certain circumstances, right? That's why I said build your calendar and then look at it on a Sunday night and see if you already know that there might be things you have to move or adjust. I would just be really cautious about creating your schedule off of the schedule of everybody else. Because here's what I can tell you, that it's not sustainable and it's not scalable. You can do that with a client. It might make you a little nuts, but you can do that with a client, maybe two. The second all of a sudden you have 3, 7, 12, you can't grow with that system in place. You can grow better with a system that says, I'm going to tell you, I learned about Calendly lately, about 2 weeks ago. You know Calendly? I'll type it in the chat box. Calendly. And you can set up a schedule for yourself and then blast out a link and have people schedule themselves in slots that you set up. Maybe I sound ridiculous saying I just discovered that 2 weeks ago. And yet, I just started using it. Well, I knew it existed. I just started using it 2 weeks ago. It's freaking awesome. I love it. I don't have to go back and forth via email and text and whatever. Send one blast out and have everybody go and do their own thing, schedule it when it is. It shows up on my calendar, and then I just meet with people as they book. right? You can set it up to give you notifications. You can do all that kind of stuff. What if your weekends were built that way? What if you decided that there was a 10 o'clock slot, a 1 o'clock slot, and a 3:30 slot for the buyers that you had to work with? And they booked those slots ahead of time so you knew who was coming when, and then figured out the properties you were going to show. I don't know. I think it might help you create some structure inside of some of the chaos.
Can I just add something to this?
Yeah, of course.
This is like my passion. And there's an expression, the day begins at 11:01. If you look at your morning, like this is when I am going to do all of my lead generation, lead follow-up, business development, business finding, business searching. And look at all the hours you have left in the day. Even if you only work until 3 o'clock, that still gives you 4 more hours of whatever to accomplish everything else. And guess what? You can accomplish a lot in that way. But that sacred time of whenever you get up until 11 o'clock, just don't set appointments before that. True, it makes a huge difference. And the other thing that's magic is batching. You batch your running around, and you never fill your car up with gas when you're in work hours. You do that after work hours.
Love it. Does that help? I forget who asked the question. Anne, I think, asked the question. And yet I'm asking Anne and everybody, does that help try and give you some understanding around trying to create a balance in your schedule? It's not perfect, and it won't be perfect. Don't try and make it perfect, right? There are realities in our industry that will have it be imperfect. There are realities in our industry where sometimes you're going to have to shift things around, right? I would just encourage you to make that the exception, not the rule, right? The shifting around, ask the question, can we do it at this time? And always remember, if it puts the client at risk, well, then make different decisions, right? If waiting until 3 o'clock, because that's your next available opportunity, that house is going to have 7 offers on it, right? That's some of the things we're dealing with right now. Well, then my advice would be show the house at 9:30 and then just figure out how to replace some of those morning hours that you missed later in the day, or double up the next day, right? If you have to erase, you have to replace. And if you're only making that the exception and not the rule, that can work as well. Does that help? Does that give you some better clarity? I see some nodding of heads. I see some who are not nodding, some who are quiet, some who are still thinking, yeah, these people are full of crap. They don't know what they're talking about.
You know, I'm going to say one more thing, which is one of your philosophies. Sometimes when you wait 2 or 3 hours, the problem or the urgent thing solves itself.
Goes away.
That happens a lot, doesn't it?
It happens all the time. All the time. And it is a strategy. It is a strategy. And I use the strategy, right? We're so programmed when that phone buzzes or dings to have to pick it up and respond within 12 seconds, right? Now, unless you happen to be capturing leads for your team or leads from wherever, and that's your lead number that's calling, well, your lead number, you should always be answering the phone, right? Some of you have a separate number that rings a separate phone or rings a different ringtone on your phone when it's a lead from your Google Voice number or whatever, right? That's a phone you always answer. Everybody else can. And here's the other thing I'll say about calendar management, schedule management. It has everything to do with the expectations that you set with the clients, right? If you're not setting expectations up front that say, so Donna, here's how this will go, right? Here are my hours of operation. If you need me, here's how you should do it. Here's what you can expect, right? From 8:30 to 10:30, Monday through Friday, I am lead generating for buyers for my sellers and lead generating for properties for my buyers. And so if you need me during those hours, please shoot me a quick text with the content, and I will get back to you at 10:30, between 10:30 and 11. If you simply set that expectation, it's not weird if someone calls you and you don't get back to them for a couple of hours. You've already told them how it works. I know some people who their voicemail message says, "Hey, it's Spencer. I don't know why all of a sudden I'm Spencer. I don't know why I can't be Rick. That's all right. I'm going to be Spencer right now. Hey, it's Spencer. I just wanted to let you know, thank you so much for your call. Just letting you know that that I'm unavailable at present. If you leave me a message, a detailed message, I will be able to get back to you between 11:30 and 12 or 4:30 and 5, depending on when you're leaving the message. Have a great day. I look forward to speaking to you." Now you've set the expectation that you're not going to call somebody back in 15 minutes, because those are times that you're typically out with clients or doing lead generation or business development, whatever your schedule has said that you're doing. And you've allowed that opportunity to sink into your clientele. There's a bold law. There's a bold law that says you teach people how to treat you, right? This is a version of that bold law. You have to help people understand what to expect from you and your business. Make sense? It's a powerful lesson. And again, as someone who has done it both ways, the way we're describing is far better, and it's far better for everyone, the clients included. I know that seems like it would be opposite, but it's better for them as well. They now know what to expect, and they talk about children craving structure, right? Part of the reason that getting our children back to school is such a hot button issue right now has something to do with safety, but it also has to do with recognizing that our children are better off in a structured school environment rather than the kind of loosey-goosiness that has gone on perhaps in with the homeschooling that went on. Not to say that some of you who were homeschooling weren't brilliant at it, but it was certainly less structured, I would assume, than the school day. I don't really believe that as adults we're any different. I don't think we grow out of that. I think that children crave structure, and I think that as we get older, we think that we want to shed structure, but we actually work better inside of a structure. Your clients are no different. You're no different. So when you create that structure and then you pass it to your clients, everyone's happier because there is some structure to the process. It doesn't feel so frenetic and chaotic. Donna Gilbert.
So I just wanted to add that, if you think about the other professionals that are in our lives, our doctors, our attorneys, our dentists, for goodness sake, even our hairdressers or people who cut our hair, we can't just get them whenever we want. They have appointments, they have a schedule, and we have to work out where we fit into their schedule. It's the same thing.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Some of this conversation is a confidence conversation, right? And just recognize that when you're newer at doing all of this, you typically have a lower level of confidence because you're newer at it. It's like being newer at anything, right? And as you build that confidence, with that comes courage, and courage allows you to then take some different steps to set different expectations so that everyone has a better experience, right? But it is a muscle you have to build. For most of you, it's not a natural place to be, right? You have to develop that, and trust that some of the things that we're saying to you, if you'll try it, like the next buyer you hire, have an expectation setting conversation. We're going to talk about that as we go through the buyer consult, right? Here's what you can expect. How do I win with you? How do you win with me? How do I lose with you? How do you lose with me? Have an expectation setting conversation right up front, and then everyone's clear. Remember this, conflict only arises out of unmet expectations. So if you do an excellent job of creating the expectation and then just live to that expectation, no conflict comes. It's an awesome thing. Look, it's my friend Karen Mulreed. So we are going to take a break because I did tell Karen 4:30 and I'm already 5 minutes late. So guys who put the questions,
Oh, that's okay.
guys who
Bye,
put the
everybody.
questions in the group chat, I will get to those after Karen is finished. So Karen is going to spend some time with you talking through the process of making sure that you have buyers who are, have you ever heard the phrase ready, willing, and able buyer? Right? Most of you have heard it ad nauseum. Here's what I want to make sure you recognize. Today, the ready, willing, and able buyer is not who you're looking for. Does that surprise some of you? Here's who you are looking for. You're looking for the able, ready, and willing buyer. You've got to move that ability to the first slot. You've got to make sure that in your qualification process, you're talking to somebody who actually has the ability, and not just because they think they have the ability. They have the ability because Karen has told both you and them, right? Karen's the boss in this whole conversation.
Exactly.
Right? If
It's all about me.
if she hasn't given the green light on ability, don't spend a whole lot of time with anybody. Certainly don't go out and show them property, right? Because ability must come first, because it's harder and harder to be able nowadays than it was in the old days, right? And Karen's going to talk you through some of the process that she follows to help you make sure that your clients are able, ready, and willing so that you have successful transactions. So I'll be back in about 20 minutes or so, maybe a smidge longer, and I will leave you in Karen's capable hands. Karen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It is nice to see you. For those of you who haven't met me in person, I'm Karen Mulreed. My company is Westport Mortgage, and we're one of your mortgage partners. We are both in the Stamford and the Ridgefield office, and we are here for you. I almost can say 24/7. I know somebody will hit me over the head for saying that, but we are always available to you, and we are here to support you and to help you with your buyers and even your sellers. And I'll tell you a little bit about that later in the conversation. But we really want you to be able to work with buyers who are ready to buy. So if you talk to anyone who's even thinking about looking at homes, you want to make sure that they are qualified to buy. And the best thing that ever happened to us, and I say this very loosely, is this pandemic has forced buyers to seek out financing options and to make sure that they're ready to buy before sellers will let them into the house. And this is the first time that buyers have ever come to me and said, you know, Karen, I have got to get qualified or they're not going to let me see the house. I mean, I had an agent call me on Saturday night at 9:30 and said, I have to have a letter. I'm bringing my buyer at 10 o'clock and we can't see the house without it. So it's become more and more important. And if anyone wants to buy anything, they have to be ready to buy at their price point that they're comfortable. And I am always, always, always now pushing them to their stretch, because every deal that I have been involved with has been a multiple offer and people are moving higher and higher in price range. And it's not that I want them to spend more than they are comfortable with, and I don't want them to spend more than they are qualified for, but they need to know the upper end as well as the point that they really would love to be at, which is, you know, always 400,000, and then they soon go to 450, 500, 550. I'm seeing it every day. Do any of you have any questions about the process before I tell you about it that you want to answer, that you want to ask? If you do, please unmute yourself and jump in at any time. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. So the first thing we do when we talk to a client, and I will tell you, in 5 minutes, I can find out a wealth of information that would take you all afternoon to find out. they're always a little hesitant to tell you how much they earn or how much they have saved. It's still a very sensitive topic, and we try to make it very conversational. We also make it very proprietary. You know, we're not going to share that information with anyone. We always have a conversation with them, even if somebody emails me and says, you know, Karen, you know, what are the rates for this? Or how much can I afford? Can you just send me the paperwork? I like to have that conversation with them because we need to build that relationship too. And we do that with a phone call or a Zoom meeting like we're doing today. And we find out a little bit about them. And we look at 4 different areas. Their income. We want to make sure that they earn enough to support the new debt. So we'll look at their pay stubs, their employment, what do they do for a living, their W-2s, their 1099s, their tax returns, their divorce income, their child support, anything, their dividend and interest, their retirement, their pension, anything that they have, right? It's rental income, anything that they have to bring in income, we are going to look at. And it's a very thorough process that we're doing. We could have just that simple conversation on the phone, or we can actually take, you know, go a step deeper or 10 steps deeper and actually analyze all this paperwork. And so you know for sure that they can afford and move forward with confidence what they're looking to buy. Because there's nothing better than going shopping and not worrying about the price. And right now, everybody is worried about the price because prices are going up, and buyers come in thinking they're going to be in one price range, and before they know it, that price point has increased, and we want them to feel good about it. And the better you feel, and the more confident you feel, the happier a buyer you are. So you know, if you're, and I use this example, if you're looking to buy a car, you would say, how much can I spend on that? If you are thinking that you really want a Honda, you're not looking at Ferraris. And that's what we want people to do. We want them to stay within their price point, you know, no matter what you're buying, and know that they can confidently buy in that price point and wait until they find that house that just feels good. And we all have known that feeling. I certainly knew it when I bought my house. Then we look at their savings. Okay, so how much do they have for down payment? How much money do they have for closing? How much will they have left over? That leftover is a really big part because we want to make sure they have a couple of months of mortgage payments in their bank accounts for unforeseen circumstances like the pandemic that we're in. Lenders right now are one of the first questions we're asking, because lenders will ask, is has your income been affected by the pandemic? Have you been furloughed? Has your income been decreased? Are you working less hours? Are you not working? And you'd be surprised at how many people will jump in the conversation with me later on and say, oh yeah, by the way, I'm not really earning that anymore. I used to. And it's just from talking to them and digging deeper that we find that out. So it's really important that we find out more about their employment, because the lender will call and verify that they still work at their place of employment within 24 to 48 hours of closing. And they want to make sure that all the paperwork, that all their income is within a week of closing, all their assets are within 30 days of closing. They want to make sure they haven't lost money in the market or haven't spent it on other things, because they might not be taking in the same income that they were initially. Any questions? Comments? Okay. We've talked about income and assets. Credit. Credit is ultra, ultra important. From the time, I usually run credit and run it through all 3 credit bureaus. And I do that because I don't like surprises. I don't want to find out later in the transaction or after they've signed the binder or after they've signed contracts that their credit score isn't what they said it was. Everyone looks at consumer credit scores, and they're not the same as as the mortgage score that we are getting. Sometimes they're in line, sometimes they're higher or lower. We don't want surprises. We run it through all three bureaus to find out their credit. I had a client recently, she had a 640 credit score. It was fine. We go to, run her credit again because it's been like 6 months since she came to me and then finally found a house, and we found out it was 619. It was 1 point away from being able to qualify for a much lower rate than she was going to. So we did a rescore. We updated her credit. We had her spend, and this is funny, we had her spend, the report said, between $1 and $10. If she spent between $1 and $10 on her credit card, she could increase her score by 10 points. So we had her go out, charge, a quart of milk, bring it back. We updated her credit score, and now she's getting a much lower rate than she was going to before we had an opportunity to run the credit. So credit's important. You always want to have good credit. You don't want to have anything outstanding. You don't want to use up too much. You don't want access to too much credit when you're looking for a house. You want to keep everything in line. You don't want to buy a car or a boat because you're going to be living on the coast, or don't close credit cards, don't pay anything off, don't lose the savings that you have. Everybody thinks that if they put money towards their credit card bills and pay those debts down, that they'll be in much better shape. It takes a while for those payments and those balances to hit. And in the process, you're using up the savings that we thought we had for either down payment, closing costs, or in reserves. And then we look at debt because overall, we don't want anyone to have more debt that they could afford. Lisa, do you have a question?
No,
Okay, you were unmuted. I thought maybe you did.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I had Maria send out a packet today. Does everybody have the estimate of fees? Or can you access it? Because I'd love to go over it with you so you have some idea about closing costs. For any of the products or any of the mortgages that your clients might be looking for, you can put down 3%, 5%, 10%, 7.5%, 15%, 20%, whatever you like. There are limits, of course, to all of those loan amounts, and we will go over all of that with your client. We have some loans just for first-time home buyers, and they have some income restrictions, but we're always willing to look at every product for every client so that they are getting the product that best fits their overall financial plan, whether it's to pay the mortgage off early with a 15-year fixed, or to get the lowest payment as possible with an interest-only adjustable rate mortgages. They're all available. Just let your clients know that we have lots of products. We do FHA, VA. I know I'm kind of skipping around. FHA, VA, USDA, adjustables, conforming, jumbo, interest-only. We do renovation loans. What was that? Investment properties. Lots of investment properties going on, and there's lots of refinancing going on. So if you have this document, this is like the estimate of fees, and it lets your clients know about what it's going to cost to close on their loan. I always estimate when a client asks me what are the costs, I always tell them that the funds needed for closing, because some of them are costs and some of them are funds because they are going to be homeowners. So there are certain things they have to pay. So I tell them that it's going to run about 2.5% of their purchase price. And if you look at this estimate of fees that I sent, you'll see that the purchase price is $500,000. I estimated 20% down. The total closing funds is about $12,000. So I wasn't too far off. And if you want to go through that, I will go through it with you. Basically, you're looking at an underwriting fee. They call it a commitment fee, an administration fee. They're all around $1,000 with the lenders. And that's lenders across the board. I just picked one. We have about 30 different lenders that we work with, and variety is definitely the spice of our life, because without having the variety of lenders and the variety of products and rates from all of those lenders, we couldn't offer our clients the best opportunity. Sometimes lenders are in the market, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're trying to slow down the pace of business, so they keep rates up, and sometimes they want more business and they'll reduce rates to bring those buyers in. Next, an appraiser. We are getting appraisal waivers. We're not getting them on every transaction. We don't know until we submit to our automated underwriting system whether or not we're going to get an appraisal waiver. If we do, then your client doesn't pay for that appraisal because they don't have to have one done. The lender accepts the value. If they do, it's going to run about $600 to do a full appraisal. Sometimes they're doing drive-bys, desktop underwriting appraisals, or they're doing complete appraisal waiver. I refinanced my own house. I got an appraisal waiver. Why, I don't know, but I did, and I was happy about it. Other fees that you'll pay for, credit. They do employment verifications. Some lenders will require that employment verifications be done. There's nobody at these companies now to just answer the phone, so they all use employment services that will verify employment and income. So we use those. They charge around $50 for that. That is a fee that if we need to verify employment that way, then we use that service, and if you don't pay for that. We also include attorney fees on the list. We list a fee for the attorney. I estimate $1,500. It's always dependent upon what your attorney charges. And I always tell everybody that we just guess at these fees to the best of our ability. So we look at the attorney's fee to close. We look at, they're doing a title search, they're getting title insurance. They always have some administrative fee that they're charging. They get closing protection letters, and they record with the town. So those are all the fees that a buyer can shop for. We can always recommend an attorney. If you're working with any of us, we'll always ask you who you prefer to work with, so that you and I, or whoever you're working with at Westport Mortgage, whether it's Nancy or Paul or Bill, we're all recommending the same people. It makes your client feel confident. Then we have home insurance. Home insurance is something that every buyer will get for their house. They need to pay that 1 year up front and put 2 months in escrow or in reserve with the lender, so the lender can make that payment for them in a year when it's time. You also pay property taxes. You will reimburse the sellers for the taxes that they have already paid. So if you are in a town where you pay twice a year, in January and July, and it's now the 28th of July, you would reimburse the seller now, because they've already paid from July to December. So since they won't own the house and you will reimburse the seller for August, September, October, November, and December. In the meantime, if you close today, you will not make your first mortgage payment until September 1st. So you'll pay the interest due from today until the end of the month. So August 1, you don't have a mortgage payment due because you've already paid the interest that you've accrued. But September 1, you will have a mortgage payment for the interest that you accrued in August. So you're always accruing interest and then you're paying it, which is why you accrue interest throughout the month, and it's always due the first of the following month. Any questions about that? That's the hardest part for your clients to comprehend. We always put a couple of months in escrow for property taxes, and those are all of the fees that we cover. We don't include inspections because they're not required by the lender. We just include the items that I've spoken about because we want to make sure that even though we're not charging a fee to your buyer for our services, we get paid from the lender, and we always tell them that. because the lender is happy to pay us for the referral of business that they wouldn't have. It's very similar to your business, how you get paid through the seller, because if you didn't bring that buyer in, they wouldn't have you or your client as a buyer. So they're happy to pay you. So they only pay you if you sell their house. With us, they only pay us if we close a mortgage with them. So it's the same concept. You know, initially we have the same conversation with our clients about what their needs are that you do. We just talk about it on the financing side. You'll ask them, you know, what type of house, what area do they want to live with, what amenities are important to them. We ask the same kinds of questions. You know, what is their overall goal with the mortgage? Do they want to spend as little as possible? Is this a house they're planning to stay in long term? If it is, we are always recommending the 30-year fixed, because today it's about, on average, 2.875. You can't beat it. It's a great time to be a buyer. Refinancing is the same. Everybody is looking to save some money, which is why I refinance. So now I'm saving money too. So if any of you have a mortgage yourself and you want to know, is it a good time to refinance? Please give one of us a call. We're happy just to run the numbers with you. Please call us on the weekends, in the evenings. I know this is when you work. When you work, we work. Don't hesitate to give out our cell numbers, because that's where we can be reached all the time. A lot of us, like you, are not working in the office, so we would appreciate it if you would pass on our cells. I have a message on mine that says, you know, if I don't answer, you know, please leave a message or text me and I will text you back. And we all, Nancy, Paul, Bill, we're all happy to help support you. Hey, Rick. Rick
Awesome.
knows I answer almost immediately, because like he says, I have no life.
Well, you do have a life. You have a life
I do.
supporting all of these
I do.
awesome agents with their buyers to make sure that they get the advice they need, right? And so it's
Right.
really important, guys. And thank you, Karen. And I think
You're welcome.
I think I see Nancy as well. Nancy should just say hi real quick.
Yes, Nancy.
Say hi.
Nancy is my
Nancy's in the same
longtime
room. Oh,
friend,
there we
and Nancy is my longtime friend and loan officer in our office now. She's terrific, and please give her a call as well, and she's happy to help.
Awesome. So if Karen and Nancy, if you would just put your names and your phone numbers and your email addresses separately in the chat box, that way everybody has access to that. You all should have received with your materials for tonight additional information for Westport Mortgage. Please just note as a follow-up to that conversation, it's really important to have.
Forgot to put my number in there.
It's really important to have connections and relationships with the people who are writing the loans for your buyers. It's just so crazy important to be able to reach out and have a conversation with someone. And I will tell you, this is nothing against the big banks, but I don't know why a buyer would go to a big bank. You just have no access to anybody, right? So when your buyers come in and say, oh yeah, I'm working with Citibank or I'm working with Chase, you can say, that's awesome. Minimally, I want you to have a conversation with our local partners, because what we find is that not only are they crazy competitive with or better than the big banks, they're actually there. We actually know where they live. We actually can touch them on a Sunday night at 7 o'clock if something's going sideways and people's hair are on fire, right? If your buyers are working with somebody at a big bank, weekends are out and after hours are out, and it's so difficult to get a hold of someone. So I want you to understand that it's really important to create relationships with mortgage partners and then utilize them.
And if you ever want us to speak to your sellers or your seller's agent, please, just calling us to do so, because we're happy to either send an email or have that conversation to let them know that your client is in good standing and is ready to buy. It really does make a difference. Just by offering that to your to the other agent, it brings a sense of confidence that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Or even looking at the pre-approval letters that they get.
Yeah, if you want us to look at, go ahead. Nancy was just saying, you know, if you want us to review the letters that you're getting from somewhere else to let you know that, yes, they really have verified the information, or no, it's just not worth the paper it's written on.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, if you want to begin a
I keep
relationship
doing that.
with either Karen or Nancy, what I would encourage you to do is reach out and talk to them about refinancing your own house right now, right? And that's a great way to begin the relationship, see what they can do, test them out for yourselves, right? It's like, don't just take our word for it on a Zoom call. Talk to them about the opportunities that might exist for a refi on your house. Talk to them about taking a step forward on that. And then if it makes sense, go ahead and do it. And that way you're putting yourself through the motions that a buyer would go through with the people that you're going to refer business to. So you have firsthand knowledge of what it is they do really well.
Or
Make
pretend
sense?
to be a buyer. You know, you can call us to pretend to be a buyer. We're happy to, you know, help you figure out what you would qualify for. And then you can go through the process just like your buyer would.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate your time as always. So guys, here's the fun part about Ignite tonight. We are going to take a 3-minute break. It's 5:01, so we'll take a 4-minute break. And here's why. I'm going to give you a new number to zoom in on. We have a conflict on this Zoom number in about 20 minutes, which I wasn't aware of until just a little while ago. So we're all going to relocate into a new Zoom room to allow something that was advertised on this Zoom number to move forward without any issue. So the new Zoom number, and I'll put it in the chat if Karen will stop screwing up the chat box. So stop typing a second, Karen. I'm going to put the new Zoom number in the chat box. It's 380-834-7684. Right, 380-834-7684. So jot that down. You won't need a password or anything. So we're gonna close down. It's 5:02, and we're gonna start up again at 5:05 in that new chat room, which I just opened. So anyone who's joining us for the rest of our time together, I will see you there, and we'll start at 5:05.